Welcome to Mikey's Untitled Music Show. Today we have Unicorn Taxidermy. That is Sean Han. That is his new musical project. His single "Crowned" is out right now on Spotify and all platforms. Sean, how you doing today, bud?
I'm good, and I'm thinking you gotta come up with a title for your untitled music show.
Yeah.
It might be
Um,
time.
it's it's untitled. I really don't. I know I want it to be a show, right? I want it to be a show. Um, I don't. I want it more to be so I want it to be two things. I want to interview and I want to showcase new music and new artists and spotlight new music and artists. I'm like, I don't know if I want to put that into two different things right now or if I just want to leave it in one, you know what I mean? So to have
Well,
everything together.
I guess actually having it called untitled is meaningful in some way because a lot of new bands or new songs, they don't have a title, and you'll just end up naming it Untitled for a long time. And I even use this app called Untitled, which is meant for people to share like demos and new things that they're working
Oh,
on with
okay.
people who want to, you want to get feedback or whatever. So maybe it's actually perfect. I take it back. You don't need to change anything.
Where did you get the name Unicorn Taxidermy? How did that name pop up?
So it was during COVID that I kind of like, I guess, started the thing. And it was when we were all doing Zooms with like old friends and catching up until 2 a.m. or whatever, because we thought we
Mm,
were all gonna die.
yeah.
And one of my high school friends had this like toy unicorn taxidermy thing. It was like a pink thing, like his daughter like just thought it was cool, and so they had
Okay,
it
yeah.
as a background, and I was like, huh. And then I thought it would be a cool band name because what I guess I'm trying to do is just make music that I'm proud of and I'm happy with that I want to put out there. And those are sort of like a unicorn in the sense that it's just like some random idea that like isn't real until able to kind of get it to a place where I feel like I want to have it out there. And then the taxidermy part is kind of like just having it out there on social media or on Spotify or whatever streaming platform. And this is, I don't know, like I don't, I would love if people listen to it a lot, obviously.
Yeah.
But I guess that's not really my goal. It's like that's the tag. It's kind of just there on the wall and it's there if you want to look at it. And if you don't care to, that's also fine, you know? So it was weirdly like I thought that there was a lot to that name and it aligned with kind of what I wanted to do with this. Like I don't want to have a band necessarily. I don't even really want to play those songs live. I just want to like get these ideas out and like put them on the wall so like I can go look back at them and like remember what I was thinking about or what point in my life it was when I was working on that song.
Hmm.
And so I don't know if that's like too heady or whatever, but
No, yeah,
that's
it's like you're putting them on display, right? You're putting them on just like a taxidermist. Taxidermist,
yeah.
they stuff the animals, but what's it for? It's for decoration, right? You put it on display, or you have a an old pet, that you really don't want to get rid of. Other people take it to the taxidermist and they put it on display. So, I mean, I think that's really cool. It's for the music, right?
Yeah. Also, I thought it was just kind of catchy, and my I had a band for a long time um, when I lived in New York City, and it was called Blip Blip Bleep, which at the time I was like, oh yeah, like that's a cool name. And then I would try to tell people at a loud bar, they'd be like, oh, you're in a band, like what's it called? And I'd be like, Blip Blip Bleep, and they'd be like, what did you say? I can't hear you. And like no one could remember what it was, and
Yeah.
so whenever I kind of started this thing, I was like, it should be something that people will remember and can like
Hmm.
find if they care to look it up later on. So that was also part of the goal, I guess.
what's one of the like earliest memories or like one of the things that you started being creative when like with music when you were younger?
Yeah, so I know you kind of teed up that this would be like one question that you would ask, and so I spent a little time thinking about it because I didn't know. And what I realized that it was, or at least the earliest that I can remember, was that I had to take classical piano lessons when I was young, as many Chinese American kids have to. And I had this really strict, like Juilliard kind of teacher. She had like a rotary phone still. I'm a little older than maybe you think I am, but and it was just like this stuffy, boring place. Like I didn't like go. She had like cats. It's like all she had in her house was this piano. You can kind of get the sense of
Mm.
it. But at some point, she let me learn like more contemporary classical music. Um, and there's this one song that she actually didn't like because it was maybe too simple, or but it's called Moon Dance, not the Van Morrison song, but it's by this like composer guy named Alan Hovesen. And it's just this short, like really pretty piano thing. And I just remember for the first time as I had because I had to like practice these songs over and over again and like get them to be perfect.
Mhm.
That was the first time when I would do them over and over again. I was like, there's something about this that makes me want to play it again. And it like makes me feel a certain way that like I hadn't under I don't think I even understood it then, but like as I've had music in my life the whole time, I realized that that was the first time I had this feeling of like I just like want to do this and it like makes me feel good and the way the harmonies sound like make my mind kind of like want to like play it again and like hear it again and play it slower and play it faster. And even though it was obviously somebody else's piece of music and it's nothing that most people probably know, it was just the first time I just had that feeling. And it's that feeling that you get when you hear your favorite song or you're like singing that hook and you're just like, I want to like hear that again.
Mhm.
Um, that's the earliest that I can remember. And then it took some time because at that point I was just really learning other people's music. And I think it wasn't until high school that I was like, I think I could like try to write a song, and they sucked. And I didn't think that I would like keep doing it, but I just kept like every once in a while being like, oh, I'll just try to write a song. And then I think after some time I was like, I think this is something I would want other people to hear, and maybe they'd like it. And
And what
I
kind
don't
of
know.
songs were you writing? Like, was it rock, R&B? Was it even any kind of genre?
Yeah, I mean, at that time in my high school, it was like a lot of jam band stuff, like Dave Matthews Band and Fish and that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And I don't really listen to that music anymore at all. Um, but sort of in that style. Uh, and I remember like the lyrics were just so like I wake up in the morning and I like do something and a friend, musician friend was like, "That's bad," and I was like, "Yeah, I think it's kind of bad." Um, just like toying around and like just kind of messing about. But the main thing at that time when I feel like I first discovered that like I really enjoyed making something, it was like I was studying jazz guitar. I kind of moved off of classical piano and like um, spent a long time studying jazz guitar, and that was all. I think it aligned with like why I liked Fish and those like jam bands because it was like a modern version of this thing that I was like working on.
Mhm.
But I learned enough about like music theory and how to play the guitar well enough that I just there was a moment in like junior year of high school I like picked it up and I was like I can just kind of play whatever I'm thinking now. And it wasn't a song, it wasn't like any structure, there's no words, it was just like guitar, but I was like, I could just do this forever. I could do this for hours and like keep just playing these random ideas and like I'm good enough at this now that like what I'm thinking about I can like play.
Mm.
And so it was more like just free form kind of creativity. And then then I was like, I think I could try to write a song, and the songs were bad. And I don't know that they're any better now, but like, it's been a fun journey, I guess.
What when you start writing a song, what's the first thing I usually ask, like, what's the first thing you start with? Is it music, or do you start with the lyrics first, or is it a combination of both?
It really, the order kind of changes. Average, it's like I just hear music like all the time.
Mhm.
Like in my head, and that might sound so weird, but like if I'm not doing something, like I just hear these, it's like it's like what I was describing before. Like I could play things on guitar that I was hearing in my head finally at
Mhm.
some point of like just knowing enough about it. And that like kind of never stopped. And as I got into like the music that I like now, like I was super into Radiohead and um this band LCD Sound System and Postal Service. So like sort of more of indie rock stuff. Like I feel like shaped these ideas in my head into something that I'm like really excited about.
Mhm.
So a lot of times I'll just kind of hear like a part of a song and like the chords to it, and I'll be like, that's not really interesting, so I'm not gonna like think about that anymore. But like every once in a while, I'll just hear like a hook or a melody or even a full part, like all the parts. And then I'll pick up the guitar and like play the chords that I heard and like just try to like shape it into something that's a little more like organized.
Mhm.
Um, so I guess what I'm saying is that it probably is the music first most of the time, but kind of separately, I sometimes I just I'm watching a movie and I think there's an interesting line, or I'm just like about to go to bed. I'm just thinking about my day and I'm like trying to summarize for myself like how I felt about something that happened. And those two sentences will be kind of like a lyric, and I'll just write it down. And it doesn't have a purpose or it's not fitting into some bigger thing, but they're just like feelings or whatever. And sometimes I'll like have the song, the musical idea for maybe what becomes a chorus or a verse, and I'll just look back at those that like note on my iPhone that's like always growing, and I'll be like, is there something here that like aligns with this melody that I heard for a vocal line? And like it just kind of like pieces together. Um, so like there's always this output that I'm trying to like get out and then like assemble. Um, But then every once in a while, I just do hear some kind of a hook, and I'll be like, "Oh, that could be a catchy like pop kind of a hook," and the lyrics have some happy vibe or thoughtful vibe or something, and I'm like, "Oh, like I'll start there and try to like get one of these other musical ideas to fit that." Um, so yeah, I guess it kind of depends.
Who's one of the well, like mine, one of the artists that really, kind of changed like my musical mind, my like musical thought was The Doors. I had never listened to I'd always heard Light My Fire on the not on the radio, but like in, uh commercials and movies and things like that. And their big hit. But one day I was with a friend and we were in her car, and she was like, "Hey, have you ever heard The Doors?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, like My Fire, right?" And she's like, "No, no, 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 not that." She's like,
Yep.
listen to this." And she puts on The Spy for me. I don't know if you ever listened to The Spy, but it starts with it's very blues. The Doors had a very, like blues sound with their like rock and blues sound. So it just starts with like a bow, 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 bow. It's a like a little blues riff with the guitar, and it's just I was a little under the influence at the time also, but so maybe I felt it a little better at the time, but um I just remember hearing that the beginning of the song, the intro of the song, and just thinking like, what is this? What is this? Like, you can make music like this? Like, what? So took me to like Unknown Soldier and 521 and Alabama Song and all the different Doors songs. And then it took me to Simon and Garfunkel. It took me to Sublime. It took me to um, just like different outlets and different like songs and different artists. And I actually wanted to go, and reach out and try to find music now. Is there a certain artist or maybe genre of music that did that for you?
I think so. It's a really good question. I guess there are like these three tracks that I'm thinking about. One is just like as a student of music and like learning all these things, I was not in control of what I was learning. It was like the classical stuff and then the jazz stuff. And like it wasn't stuff that I reached to listen to, but like that was just like this constant presence of like learning about how music works.
Hmm.
And like on top of that, there's like these early memories of um like I don't know, the song Right Now by Van Halen. It was like
Hmm.
in this Pepsi commercial or something, and it was like this huge, I couldn't stop hearing that song. And then it's like I loved that piano part. And so I sat down and I like figured out how to play the intro. And so there's always been like little things like that that just jumped out at me. And my parents or like immigrants and they didn't listen to like tons of like Western pop music or things on the radio. I
Hmm.
mean, I had the radio on, but like, it's just like wasn't there. Like I wasn't allowed to listen to Guns N' Roses and like we did anyway, but like, it was like there just
Yeah.
wasn't that like strong culture of like you have to check out like the Beatles or whatever. So
Hmm.
there's like these nuggets of things that like I just kind of gravitated towards and sometimes I would like learn them but there wasn't like this genre or like this one thing until I guess high school when like that granola crunchy stuff was that I mentioned earlier, like Dave Matthews, and like I got really into that stuff. And I think again because of the jazz thing, like I really liked the guitar player from Fish like a lot, and I would listen to everything he did and tried to like really emulate. I was like, I'm gonna be this great guitar player just like him, and spent so long trying to just like be a great guitar player. Um, but then really like I think when it hit is like I discovered Jeff Buckley and Radiohead and like these other more like moody um things that weren't like these free-form jazz and like other types of music that I'd like spent a lot of time on and something about it just like really sucked me in and so like all I listened to for a long time was Jeff Buckley and Radiohead which became depressing because they're both like real but I think that like sort of influenced the way that like I thought about music and how you could like write a song and like be emotional and that kind of thing. So that was the first time I think like really like I got sucked into something that would like last forever. And I discovered the Postal Service and they have this song called The District Sleeps Alone Tonight that like the first time I heard that and it's like this mix of like electronic stuff and like poppier singing but still a little sad like the things I'd been listening to but the music was happy and like uplifting or at least that song ends that way it's like ends big and dancey but like still sad
Hmm.
um like I think that song really just kind of grabbed me in a way that like nothing had prior to it and opened this door to like all these different indie rock bands and people doing things that are like in the pop and rock realm but like just a little different and a little more interesting to me than like the things that were just commercially on the radio.
Hmm.
Uh, that was kind of a long answer, but
Oh no, it's good. It's it's good, man. Like when when I was younger, it was kind of the same. I I grew up in a Christian home and there was yeah, we would listen to like I had the radio because I didn't have anyone to really want to buy CDs. We had maybe like a collection of CDs. I remember we had the Mariah Carey CD, We
Yeah,
like her
baby.
first CD, you know what I'm saying? And then we had the No Doubt Tragic Kingdom CD. I remember that one. That one was a big one growing up. And my parents are very young. Like my parents had me when they were 16, 17. So so I grew up still pretty much with the music of the time, I guess. And then I remember my dad also had he would play Metallica. And Enter Sandman was a huge, I mean for a lot of people, right? But Enter Sandman was a huge like influence also, like just the freaking hard rock,
Riff,
the
man. It's
the riff, the solo, just the hard voice, you know. Um, when you look at a song like, well, I guess what I'm trying to get with that, it's like there's when I look at music, like people ask me like, what do you like better? What do you like better, the lyrics or the music? Or like what do you look into? And I tell them, well, honestly, I don't really, not that the lyrics don't, have a lot of meaning for me or anything, but I feel like it's just the vocals with the music is how I listen to the music, you know? Like if I listen to it without the vocals, like yeah, that's fine. If I listen to it without the music, yeah, that's fine. But I feel like both of them together are what make it work, right? When you go into writing a song, do you look at it as, okay, I want to, not that I don't think a message is like, for me or anything like that, but do you try to write it with a message, or do you try to how it sounds good to you, or how you think it would sound good to like other people? Like how does it usually, I guess, come out first?
a really good question. Well, for lyrics, like I, I don't know that I'm like a great lyricist or anything, but I try to. I guess they start like somewhat personal, because like I said, I just kind of like write down these little thoughts and whatever into some note, and but I think there's a filter before I actually like try to turn it into some song lyric where I'm like, I don't want this to be like blatantly about like just me, because I do want people to hear it and like somehow relate to whatever it is. So like I wouldn't say water it down, but I try to like remove just a little bit of like super specific things. And then I do try to think about, do I want this song? Well, a friend of mine says that a lot of what I do is like melancholy euphoria. And it's what I was kind of explaining about that Postal Service song. Like the music is happy and hopefully uplifting, but like the lyrics are a little more thoughtful and maybe like not that happy. And it's not like I'm going for that. A lot of times I'll be like, oh, I should just write like a party song, man. Like just something that like people don't have to think about and the lyrics don't matter. And I actually look up a lot of like pop songs sometimes, just like, why do I think this song is good? And I'll read the lyrics and I'm like, these are bad. But the way that it comes across is like,
Yeah,
I
right.
don't know
Yeah.
that it's bad. Or like, I can't believe that it was that bad because I sing it all the time on the radio. But like, I never thought about what it meant. So like, why can't I just do that? But I kind of can't. I'm gonna continue to like try. But then when I actually sit down to do it, somehow ends up in this vague, like somewhat personal, somewhat like thoughtful, but like I'm trying to make it a little abstracted so somebody could hear a line and be like, oh yeah, like that's something I think too, or like I've had that thought as well, or I have like some hope and optimism, even though things are like a little challenging every day. So I'm trying to like hit, not on purpose, I guess, but like maybe that's where it ends up, is like trying to just hit these like thoughts that other people might have. And um so yeah, I it's everything. Like it starts personal, but I try to filter it a little bit and I do try to think about, you know, if people are listening, which is mostly just my mom. Uh and you, I guess. Um like what is the person on the other side like going to perceive this as trying to say? Uh I try to keep that in mind, I guess. But maybe the final thought is that the same thing you were thinking like I think it's like a whole package. Like the lyrics and the vocals are just one instrument that is happens to be from somebody's mouth, but I don't think of it as more or less important than like every single detail of every single other instrument. And then if I'm mixing or doing more of the like production stuff and like adding effects and little ear candy things, I think those are just as important as every word and every sort of syllable because it's like one painting. It's not just about one thing. And I almost like as I've been doing more of these video things, because like that seems to be what people do online and that's what you saw. I'm almost trying to not well, the last one is very it's a short, like, normal format song. There's singing almost the whole time, but I'm trying to do things where it's not just singing and like because I don't think of myself as like a singer, I guess. I just happen to sing and I happen to write words because I want to write music and songs require all these things. Hopefully that makes sense.
So you said that this little this project that you have, this musical project, it started in COVID. You used to have a band. What how far like in between did you have your band and like did COVID start?
Yeah, so the band kind of ran from 2007 to 2013. Um, and then I was at the time I was trying to do a bunch of different things. I lived in New York and I was trying to be like a session guitar player, just like for recording sessions or in other people's bands as like a higher, like a just like a working musician.
Mhm.
And then I also had that band, which was kind of like my main personal project. And um, we tried to like make it or whatever, and it didn't really happen, obviously. We were like locally successful and did like some very light touring. And then I just kind of stopped. I had a kid. I was like, this music thing is I love it, but it's become a drag. Like the band is not really like getting to a bigger level. Maybe I'm not trying hard enough. I don't really want to lug my gear all around the city anymore. Like I just was done. I was just done and I like didn't touch an instrument or think about music for like 6 or 7 years until I don't know, 2018 or 2019. I just like took out a guitar, started strumming, and then like I wrote a couple songs, but then COVID hit, and suddenly there was all this time, and I had already kind of gotten enough back into it that I'd like gotten my recording gear back out, and like was sort of like getting into it. And then all that time, and you know, everybody was thinking all sorts of things at the time. It's just like, it, for whatever reason, I just filled it by starting to make more music and finding a lot more joy than I did the first when I ended the band or when the band kind of ended because it wasn't about trying to make it anymore um it was really just like I love making music and I think about it all the time and I don't want to have the pressure or goals and I'm also at a point in my life where like it just isn't that realistic to like do that anymore. But it's almost freeing because I can just do what I want on my own time and put out things that I'm really proud of. And if people like it, great. If they want to skip it, that's also fine. And like, in a way, I don't know, it almost feels more creative than being like, oh, we gotta like book these shows and like be good at playing live. And then we have to write songs and like do all this stuff. It was like a machine of like a job.
Mm.
And now it's like just pure, like I just love doing it and I just want to like move on to the next thing and like the next song and the next idea and like keep cranking these out and like hang them up on the wall, I guess.
Yeah. Like it's funny that you say you hear music all the time in your head. It's like if I'm usually when I'm quiet. I don't have a thought in my head, but I have a song in my head. You know, I have some kind of just song in my head, and I always have music like in the back of my mind. Like I can't like you can't get it out. You know, it's just it's like it's just playing up there, you know. If
Yep.
I don't have if I'm just like hanging out, I just, you know, maybe I'm waiting in line, you know, like somewhere, and it's just my wife is like, what are you thinking about? Most of the time I'll say nothing, but sometimes I'll say, "Oh, I'm listening to a song." And she's
Yep.
like, "What? Like, what are you talking about?" And I'm like, "I don't know, I can't explain it. I'm just listening to a song. Like I could just hear a song right now, you know?" And I think that's amazing. And you know, I need music. I need music on the car ride home. I need music in the shower. I need music while I'm playing a video game. You know, I'll have music in the background while I'm talking to my friends playing video games, and I can't even really hear half the time, but I need that song. I want to listen to that song, you know. I'll
Yep.
I'll get into like when I get home, if the song barely came on and I just parked, I'm gonna sit in the car until that song is off, you know, or until that song's done, you know what I mean? If it's a really good song. Like, what do you think it is like about music that resonates with us like so much and that, you know, grabs us so much? Like, what do you think that is?
I've been thinking about that kind of a lot. I mean, both when I was like trying to be in a band that was successful, it's like, how do you make music that people really want to listen to? If I'd solved that, like, it'd probably be a different situation with my music career. So I can't say I've solved it, but I've thought about it a lot. And I think it's because it's like, and it's art, and just like painting is art and visual art and like any kind of art, but it's like, it can live with you in a way that other art can't. I mean, that can like live in your memory and you can remember like a sculpture, but you can put on a song that makes you feel a certain way. Well, now you can do that anywhere, anytime because of like technology or whatever. But I think it's like this memory, a song becomes like part of you and it becomes, it doesn't have to be a pop song, it can be a classical song or a jazz piece or whatever. But like it's like an emotional experience when you listen to it. And if it's one that you like, it's one that like you can put that on and feel that way anytime you want. And maybe you put it on because you want to feel that way, or maybe like listening to something makes you feel a certain way. Um, and it lasts a while. Like it lasts, 2.5 minutes for a short song, or it could be forever for like jam band music. But it's something you're experiencing for like an extended time, and you want to do that again, you just like play it again. It's like a different kind of a thing than any other art, which are unique in their own ways too. But I think that's why music is different. Like it just becomes part of you. A song you like becomes part of your like being, and you can always have that song. Um, but like, how do you make a song that people want to have as part of their being? I don't know, man.
Yeah, like that's that's one of the like big mysteries, right? Like or like how do you make a movie that people want to watch? How do you write a story that people want to read? It's but I mean, I truly believe that everybody has it. I truly believe that everybody has something that they can give to the world. Like the thing I have is I'm polite, right? I can speak with anybody, but you know, I want to share, you know. I want to share the pretty much the only way that I can right now and know how is to share my experiences, right? But and one of my the two experiences that I love the most are watching movies and listening to music. I tried to watch movies. It didn't feel right. You know, I had a podcast before and it turned into something, then turned into something, then turned into something
Yep.
until, you know, until finally it was just like I'm not even having fun with that anymore, you know? And I just feel like I'm having more fun with music right now. And the thing I used to love when I was younger were like radio shows, like Howard Stern. When we would come up, I come from a very small town also. It's called the Imperial Valley. It's about an hour and a half from here in San Diego. And there's like nothing down there, right? And but they had radio stations, they had radio shows, and we would listen to the radio, and they would put out new music. Oh, this is the local artist, this is the new music, hear it here first kind of thing, you know what I mean? And when we would go to San Diego, my dad would put on Howard Stern, and I remember, oh man, this guy is crazy. My dad would have to change the channel or have to change the station sometimes when it was getting too raunchy.
Appropriate.
Yeah. But, you know, I feel like that's what I want to give to the world. I want to give other people's music. I want to share it. And the big thing, like, if if they say, "Oh, I heard that on Mikey's," that's oh, I started on Mikey's. That's just that just
That'll
gives
be
me,
rad.
that
Well,
would be great.
I mean,
Um,
I mentioned this to you while we were just like chatting on Instagram or whatever, but I just thought that what you're trying to do is like just genuine, and that's why I responded and like wanted to do this. And there's so much of this. I mean, everything's about money, right? But like a lot of what's going on that I see from my little corner is like it's so money driven, and like I post, one of my little songs and I hope people like it. And like half the people who DM me are just like, yo, like, do you want me to promote your music? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I do. But why is that the first thing, And like you were
yeah.
you were the only person who's just like, I just like your music. I wanted to share it, and like, do you want to chat about music? And um, hopefully that there's like room for that, and I think there is. And I hope your podcast or your Untitled show does really well because you're just doing it because you like. There's like it's simple, right? Like you just do it because you like it, and that's why I'm trying to do this Unicorn Taxidermy thing. Like I just make music because I like making music, and as the world becomes so commercial and like the pop songs are just this machine that cranks stuff out and they're catching. I love listening to them. And like as the internet is littered with people who are just like, I will take your money and make a bad post trying to get more people to listen to it. And those people will probably just reach out to me asking if I want to pay them to promote. It's like just nice to meet somebody who was like, I just want to share music and talk about music. And like I love that. I'm glad you're doing it.
Well, thank you. And I mean, ultimately, you want to make music from the thing. I mean, you want to make money from the thing that you love, right? But if
Of
you
course.
come, like for me, I feel if this is successful, the money will come, right? So, like, who am I to charge anybody for music promotion? You know what I mean? Like who is anybody else really to charge for that music promote, especially nowadays because we have Instagram and we have that kind of thing, right? Um, but yeah, that's just my goal with it. Is just, if people find other people's music on my show and they say they got it from me, that's freaking awesome. If if like Unicorn Taxidermy is on a little podcast, some somebody likes it so much that and it blows up, that would be awesome, you know what I mean? But it's not like the money is the money will come, but it's you do things because you love them, and that's what I've learned as I've gotten older. I have two boys, I'm married, I've had a life of my own, and
Yep.
um I've learned finally to listen to everybody out there that's successful that says do what you love to do, right? Do what you love to do. And that's why I'm doing this. Um, but back to you, one of the things that, I really, wonder is what everybody's message is, what the artist's message and, you know, what what pretty much the well, first, what is the ultimate purpose that music has had, in your life? Or what is the ultimate purpose of music in your life?
I think there's two, at least now. One is just fulfillment. Like I just like doing it. Like if I have time, like I just want to go play the drums or I want to go pick up the guitar or I want to like get on my computer. Like it's just like how I want to spend my time because I enjoy the process of doing it. So there's no like end goal. It's just like I just want to do it and it makes me happy. But I realized that part of it too is like so I also have two kids, I'm married and like um I like the idea that these songs and things that I've made will be around and my kids can listen to them and actually I don't know how some of these licensing things like I pay CD Baby some money like how long does that actually stay up there? What if CD Baby goes out of
Goes
business?
out of
Doesn't
business.
matter. But the idea I'm trying to communicate is I like the idea of like a couple times a year I'll put out a song that I'm really proud of, and my kids will remember that I've worked on it. They'll remember like
Like
that, and
and
when I'm gone or whatever, like they'll still be here, and like that's like a part of me that um, like a legacy or something. But
yeah,
realize that that is part of like why I like having that stuff out there.
yeah. And you know, like one of the messages, I want to know what your message to the world is. Like one of the big messages that I have now, especially to my kids and kind of living it right now is, you if you have a dream, you know, it's not gonna it's not gonna happen without you actually doing the work to do it. I was always told you can be anything, you could do anything. Um, but they said you could do it. You could do it. You could do it. You got it, whatever, all blah 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 blah. But because of how young everyone was around me, and they have wisdom now. They have all the wisdom now, but they didn't really have wisdom at the time, like to say, but you have to work at it. You have to make your dream come true. So one of my
Mhm,
things
mhm.
is, and like telling my kids, like, who am I to tell my kids that they can do whatever they want to do and, go for their dream when I'm not doing it myself. So, it's everybody has a shot. You just need to go out there and do it. It's pretty much like, one of my messages. Like what's one of your messages that you want to give out to the world that Unicorn Taxidermy or Sean Han wants to give to the world?
Oh, my first thought is who am I to communicate any kind of a message like that? But I guess what it is that you were talking about how you can be whatever you want to be, and I like that concept a lot. But maybe what I'm trying to do with this and show my kids, and it's just finding joy and spending time with what brings you joy. Um, if there's money involved, that's amazing. But it's less about that. It's just like, yeah, like I want to show them that like I've become good at this because I just like doing it. And I want to have them see me spend time doing this thing I like that is, constructive and like healthy for me. And hopefully have them find in it would be great if it's music, but if it's sports or
Mhm.
drawing or whatever, like I just want them to find at least one thing like I have, and I hope everyone can find one thing like that that if you got nothing else going on, like you'll never be bored. You'll be kind of satisfied and fulfilled with that one thing that and it could be a relationship or it could be a video game. I don't know, but like well, maybe not video games. They're like probably not great for your brain. Uh but I guess that's what it is. Like the life is hard and there's always challenges and drama and things to deal with, but find that thing or things and try to spend as much time as you can, and not getting swallowed by just the grind. And you probably will get swallowed by the grind.
Yeah.
But having that thing to look forward to that's not just a weekend and not just a vacation, but like this fulfilling thing, like um, I feel lucky that I have it, and I hope other people can find something like it or have something like it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Sean. Really appreciate it. You're helping a small show out, and it was really fun to talk to you about music, about your journey, about your creativity, and I would love to have you again. We Unicorn Taxidermy, Unicorn underscore taxidermy on Instagram. Let everybody know where they can find all your music and if you have anything coming out soon.
Yeah, so that's right. It's unicorn underscore taxidermy, and I tried to make that the same everywhere, but I couldn't. But it's basically that on all the things and Spotify and unicorntaxidermy.com, which I probably need to update. Um, And I'm working on a new song idea that I'm really excited about that's more of like an 80s like jam. So forgetting the like rock instrumentation of the last couple songs that I did and just purely going like synthesizer and electronic, and hopefully getting a little bit away from like the thoughtful, slightly sad thing, and like maybe just a little more like just like I just want to put this jam on and have a good time.
Hmm.
It's gonna take me a while. Like these, because I do like every detail, it's probably gonna be like 4 or 5 months before that's like done and out. Um, but I see the path to like getting there, and
Yeah.
uh, I'll definitely hit you up when it's out and you can check it out. And um, so that's what's going on. And in the meantime, I posted like like a drum cover of a friend's song today. So I'm gonna try to just like put a couple little up there when I'm like noodling around, because maybe it's fun for people to see. So yeah, that's what's going on.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining us. And thank you, everybody, for joining us and going along this musical journey with me. Really appreciate it. Like we say at the end, remember, be safe, be great. We share because we care. And I hope you have a good one. Peace.
Man, thanks a lot for having me.